What's up, Rockstars? How's it going? Today I'm going to be looking through the last year of news coverage that I've been covering on this channel for Board Game News, and I'll be compiling the top 10 controversies of the year. What are they and what order are they? Well, let's go ahead and find out. As always, I'd like to start with a quick shout out to my YouTube members and patrons. It is through their generous support that I'm able to stay financially independent from the board game industry that I'm supposed to be criticizing, so that I can give you videos just like this one. I accept no money from any game developer so that I can freely give my opinion, so that when you hear my opinion, it's my opinion and not my wallet's opinion. If you care to join that and you're so inclined to do so and are able to, there is a link down below to my Patreon. I would be very grateful. If not, that's fine. Let's go ahead and jump into the video. Okay, starting things out at number 10, we have AEG and their censorship. So, Dead Reckoning looked like a very cool game on Kickstarter. By all means, it was a success. So, how did that go wrong? Well, AEG happened, apparently. Okay, so, after the campaign, people were noticing that they were still seeing people's comments marked as, that were made after the campaign as canceled. That they canceled their account or their pledge. Now that's impossible unless you actually either go through them for a refund or they do it on their behalf. Either way, it's AEG that does it at that point. So what gives? Well, it turns out that in their kind of disclaimer, they have a little blurb that says that essentially if they want a positive. In fact, you know what? Let me go on and read it. Instead of summarizing it, I'll read it. Somebody posted it here, and we'll go ahead and do this. Terms and conditions. By pledging to this project, you agree to conduct all public interactions via Kickstarter's communication channels with this project and our team and other backers in a positive manner. Harassment, name-calling, or attempts to inject inappropriate content into the public communication channels for the project will result in the cancellation of your pledge with a full refund and your ejection from the campaign. We want the communication channels for this campaign to be friendly, a positive place for our community to gather and discuss the campaign, ask questions, and provide input. AEG reserves the rights to cancel any pledge with a full refund at any time for any reason. Now, while I can understand the inclination there, I am definitely not for any kind of censorship. There are plenty of people that disagree with me and post mean things, and they are free to do so, and I'm free to rebuttal if I want to, or ignore them and just try to foster a positive community, or whatever community I wish. That's kind of one of the nice things about the internet, is you can kind of choose and lead by example, ideally. Now, when it says, like, injecting inappropriate stuff, like, what does that mean? Well, let's take a look. So this guy here says, laugh out loud, I just commented, why would I pay for promo cards? And AEG canceled my pledge. Losers can't handle criticism. Now, there's nothing mean or rude or inappropriate there, right? So what's going on? Is that real? Like, did they actually do that? Well, yes, they did. So we can see here that after the campaign was over, they had a comment, so they were able to comment afterwards, which means they did pledge, and then it says that they had canceled their pledge. Well, what does that mean? What's going on there? So if we look, it says, why the bleep would I buy promo cards? It's your choice. Can't really call them promo, though. Apparently, they don't want that guy's money. In fact, even though he was willing to pay them and play the game and enjoy the game because he had any form of criticism, even a self-censored one, he was ejected from the campaign, forcibly removed, and refunded his money. No soup for you, Mr. Logiclust. That sort of heavy-handed censorship, and especially around any kind of feedback or criticism, is really unfortunate. One of the things that would have been great for AEG to accept some feedback for, then actually accepted, not just eject the person, was when they funded, they said, thank you to, and then they listed some tiers for the backers, but it wasn't all of the tiers. They omitted the cheapest one. In other words, they said thank you to these people, and these people, and they purposely didn't say thank you to these people. So a guy commented and said, yeah, it's kind of comes off as a little rude. Like, he didn't curse, he didn't even self-bleep or anything like that. And again, taken out. Not allowed to provide any feedback. AEG doesn't want to hear your feedback, apparently, and they will heavy-handed ban you for it. Definitely controversial, and definitely something I think the community should push out against. That is a terrible way to run a company, to run a campaign, and it's fully missing the point of what a Kickstarter provides a business. There are companies like Awakened Realms that really understand the benefit of it, and it's unfortunate to see companies like AEG squander that almost free gift that Kickstarter gives you with that connection to your community. So, unfortunate there, definitely controversial, and probably just really, really bad on their part. Okay, number 9 is Neomorphosis Infestation cancellation / DEI cancellation / all of the other ones that I'm not going to list. So there was a few here in 2020 that would successfully fund. Here's Neomorphosis at 173,800 and they canceled it. And then here's DEI at 218,764 and they canceled it. Both of them relaunched. Both of them made a little bit more money, but not actually a whole lot, and successfully completed without a cancellation at the end. So what gives here? Well, the big controversy that I saw was the fact that that number is fake, which kind of surprised me because I like to think we all know that number is fake. When they say, yeah, we'll produce this game for 80,000, it's like, will you? Would that even pay for the steel molds for all those miniatures you promised? Your game comes with 80 miniatures in the core box. You know how many steel molds that is? So some of it's a really silly like that. Really, you want to fund as quick as possible. This is like the companies when they do this. They want to fund as quick as possible and start unlocking stretch goals day one so that excitement keeps going. And they're not necessarily wrong in that it does help. Now, whether it's right or wrong, the effect is the same. It is definitely good for it. I think a mentality we often have is we don't want to see something that's been on Kickstarter for 20 days and still hasn't funded. You'd be like, well, what's wrong with it? Why hasn't it funded yet? You know, and even though it could be the same game, but if they had changed the funding level to where it let it get funded and unlocked a whole bunch of stuff, you're like, wow, everybody's excited about this game. It could be the same amount. So I get there's some mentality there, and part of it's on us, part of it's on them, but definitely controversial to see some, especially in the $200,000 range. That is actually not too bad. Unfortunately, DEI is, I think, the best game Ludus Madness Studio has ever made. It is fantastic. It's a great game. And so I was kind of sad that it didn't get as much love as some of their other stuff, which honestly I think is far less game. DEI, though, is really good. Neomorphosis Infestation, we've yet to see, obviously, but DEI I was able to take a look at early. It's just kind of interesting that at 1,293 backers and 1,600, so a little bit under 2,000 people on both, essentially had the rug pulled out from under them and canceled when they were fully ready to do it. Again, they both did eventually come back, and they both did better in the second version. So maybe they weren't quite wrong there, but definitely controversial to start doing that, especially to be that overt about it. 218,000 from a 100,000 goal. You've over 200% funded, and then you canceled, essentially saying, hey, we could do better. And really it means we have more stretch goals to unlock, and we were actually expecting a different number. Neomorphosis was, again, also over 200%, right? 45,000 was their goal, which, are you going to make a game for $45,000? No, you're not going to make one for $173,000 either, apparently. Definitely something that needs to be handled very carefully, I think, from the company if something like that does happen. Obviously, never launch a campaign planning to cancel, and you hope it just is a huge success. But yeah, it's odd and not common for us to see kind of the ugly underbelly of running a Kickstarter campaign from the company's side so overtly, especially with multiple projects like that. So two fairly high profile, fairly successful Kickstarter campaigns canceled kind of early on in 2020, actually. It was kind of interesting to see. All right, now we are on number 8, and number 8 is the Massive Darkness 2 Tonal Shift. A tonal shift, tone shift, tonal change. I don't know. That sounds weird and weirder the more I say it. Really, it was just a kind of a shock to, I think, a lot of people to suddenly see the difference. Now, the art style is the same, right? So it's the same art style, but it's not the same theme per se. And it's not like it's changing from one setting to another. It's the world you're inhabiting and everything like that that's so different. You could kind of compare it to people's reaction to the prequels of Star Wars and the original Star Wars, where, you know, you're on remote planets and all this other kind of stuff, and everything's really worn down and industrial kind of sci-fi, and then you get this kind of really sleek sci-fi in really metropolitan areas, and the other one, it's just kind of this whiplash of theme change that isn't necessarily something everybody is okay with. Now, sometimes you get used to that, but I think the most important thing to note here, and we're going to take a look a little bit at some of the theme changes. I'll kind of point them out to you to kind of, you know, here's a good example of it. But I think one of the most important things learned from this controversy is for a company, and so if you're a developer, please listen up, to set the exact expectations backers should have. The last thing you want to do is see backers kind of hypothesizing about something that just doesn't match it. Or if you made a change, that they need to be aware of that change. Now, you don't have to be overt, like, we've changed the theme, but definitely, you know, if you're talking about a lighter tone, if you're talking about, you know, a whole different setting, or if you're talking, whatever it is that you're changing, just make sure that the customers have the good expectations. That way, when they eventually get the game or when they see the campaign, they have a good reaction to it. They're ready for it, even if it's necessarily a bad thing, because I think a lot of people, and watching this and seeing this hit 21,000 backers and 3.8 million, all that stuff, especially later on, came around, right? It just took a while. You gotta have to have that, wait, what? You're doing what with Massive Darkness? And so just setting that expectation up front early on in your teases, in your hype it correctly. Don't hype it as something that it's not, right? If you're not a miniatures game, don't just show miniatures. That's a bad thing to do, because people are going to get these miniatures and be like, well, these are useless. Why did I get that? And you don't want those comments. So let's take a look real quick. Just real quick. We'll take a look at some of this kind of stuff. Really, it was just, again, the art style is the same and the theme's different, but that's fine. Angels and Demons can definitely work. I know a lot of people backed Massive Darkness 1 for the miniatures to use in D&D. And I mean, I know of at least a handful that specifically backed it just for that. So anything that goes away from that is kind of an odd choice too, because it was very traditional. And a lot of people are like, oh, that's maybe too traditional. And I can understand that too. Some people liked it because it means you could use it in like very traditional, you know, D&D sessions and stuff like that. And some people didn't. Okay, so if we're going to scroll through here, this kind of thing here, when your enemies get a little goofy or a little silly, like this looks like the dumb hyena from the Lion King animated movie. You know, the one that's constantly laughing and drooling. That's who you're fighting for gargoyles. This makes the original Hero Quest gargoyle look like a frightening end boss. And this just looks silly. And so it's kind of that silly vibe. And just very non-traditional, to the extreme. But they even had stuff like, right here. So they have a kind of a Care Bear, rainbows and Skittles and pink and purple and pastels world that you can go into. It's actually a whole separate expansion, but they're all stretch goals, so everybody's getting them. It means you didn't pay for it. It means you get it no matter if you want it or not. You could ignore it, but either way, you're paying for the shipping of it at least. Because you're getting it no matter what. Kind of an interesting choice there. And so again, some of these things are really cool, right? I mean, they definitely have some really knockout ones that are very traditional and then some that are just a bit silly. Here's another thing. So this is actually a character. I think it's a chick, but I think they said she when they were talking about it, but I can't really tell because it's a flying beetle person. Again, coming from Massive Darkness 1, even seeing all of the player options there, nobody was expecting a beetle person with pinchers on their head, flying like a little fairy with a sword as being the shaman of the group. Definitely, again, non-traditional there, which is, kind of odd. And some, like the Paladin, are just, again, bog standard. So it was kind of a weird mix between a lot of them, but that was certainly odd. The kind of goofy, chibi styled enemies are a bit different, I guess. And again, the silliness, the satyrs are all goofy too. They have like pug eyes that are bulging out and going sideways, so they can't look at you real straight. Especially these kind of lackeys are just kind of silly. You know, a little kind of fun, lighthearted. They had techno angels. So these angels have like these techno faces made of like, polygons, kind of like a Deus Ex. If you played like the Deus Ex Machina games or anything like that, you kind of know that style from the latest ones there. A lot of like weird tentacle tails that were going on. Lots of wings. Geese. So we definitely got the geese on the angels. That's a big thing. Just some odd choices that were like, well, feels a little different. So that was kind of a big deal because I don't think anybody was expecting that. Even when we saw the characters, I know I saw these characters and I didn't point out the whole like, oh my gosh, this isn't even like a human. What are you? So just a little odd there. Okay, next up at number 7, we have Street Fighter. So it's actually the UTS system from Jasco, and the fact that the Dragon Ball Z game is no longer being made. and that's because of IDW. So this is unfortunate. I don't know why Jasco does this. I'm a late pledger here, but that means I can't see anything because they mark everything as backers only. The only time this should be used is if you're giving them something that other people shouldn't be able to have, like early images or files. And maybe that's here, though in my opinion, this is almost every update, and so they should separate them into a backer one and a public one. So it's unfortunate I can't see this. There's the Discord page. There was some other stuff. They sent an email out. I don't have it anymore, unfortunately, but essentially they were going to do a Street Fighters, they were going to do a Mortal Kombat, and then a Dragon Ball Z game. Well, the Dragon Ball Z game went away the moment Kamon and IDW partnered to make their version. Now, it's said that they just didn't want to compete, though I imagine they're going to be quite different games. At least I hope they would be. So I don't know if it's that or if it's licensing. A lot of licensors don't want competing games out at the same time. They're fine licensing to multiple people, so it's not like maybe Jasco lost it, but they definitely want to, not have it right after each other. Now, Dragon Ball Z was going to be out towards the end, and I think the Kamon one is actually coming out fairly soon. From what I hear from the rumor mill, that might be kind of towards the beginning of 2021. So we'll see. It's actually listed in my 2021 upcoming Kickstarter video. If you haven't seen that, link down below. So anyway, a very interesting kind of thing where another company announces it. You're going to see that again here real soon in the video, actually. So with that, actually, that's a great segue. Before we get into some of the heavy hitters, now some of these are fairly interesting, and a lot of people were really negative about these. But before we get into that, I wanted to talk about my sponsor of the video, Skillshare. Now, I've talked to you guys a few times about this, and if you absolutely hate ads and can't stand a few minutes of me talking about how this has actually helped me, and I'll show you and talk about it, there is a timestamp down below where you can skip it. I certainly don't want you to have to suffer through anything you don't want to. In fact, there's been timestamps through the whole thing, so you can skip around, come back, do whatever it is you need to make this video useful for you. But I'm going to talk about Skillshare real quick because, first of all, I am an active, I pay for a subscription. I use this and it's really, really nice. It's also pretty darn cheap. It's at less than $10 a month if you do the yearly thing. There is a link down below. It's always limited to 1,000 people. So only the first 1,000 people can go ahead and get that code. Again, follow that down below for some free months of the premium, which is a great deal because then you can kind of get started and actually see if it's right for you before putting any money in, which I think is awesome. Today, I want to talk to you about this kind of, it was interesting because I kind of hemmed and hawed about whether or not I wanted to watch this. And then I decided to go ahead and do it. And the reason is, by the way, this is a video on a budget, prepare to shoot without breaking the bank, which sounds perfect for pretty much any YouTuber like me that is fully independent. Definitely have to watch what I'm doing and what I'm filming and what I'm using to film with and what I upgrade. And the reason I decided to go ahead with it is because of this section here. If you notice, I skipped a whole section here. So he creates music videos. Which is not something I do, obviously. So there's a few things like scouting your location. I don't need to watch the 8 minutes and 50 seconds of that. So I can just skip that, which is great that it's compartmentalized like that. Creating a treatments for a client, right? You kind of do all that. But the other stuff, like just planning things ahead, especially because I want to upgrade my camera. Again, that'll all be thanks to the actual patrons. That's where a lot of that money is going, is saving up for that. So thank you so much for that. But that means I'll have 2 cameras so I can start really filming some B-roll. And so I have to kind of figure out what that looks like. And in fact, the next one I have queued up to watch is how to film B-roll or how to film boring B-roll, I think is actually what it's called, which is kind of funny. But that was really good. The building a gear list was fantastic. He talks about kind of the order, and it's not the order you would think. It's the camera is not number 1. Number 1's actually the lighting, which I have done. Hopefully it's better than some of my older videos. I know they were kind of dark and grainy, and the lighting has certainly helped with that. I didn't change the camera, I didn't change the lens, I didn't change anything like that. It's just the lighting, but I think it's a lot nicer. It's not perfect. I could always improve. There's always room for improvement, but what I have right now, I think, is very sufficient for my needs. So he kind of goes over that, like, hey, that's number 1, just get your lighting and that'll improve anything you're recording video on. And it's not something, again, that you would necessarily think of. A lot of times lighting is almost ignored, right? And people are like, I'll just open a window or something like that. So, definitely some useful things for me there. If you're ever planning on either just being the dude that films the, all the family events, or whether you're thinking about starting a YouTube channel or anything like that, this is super helpful to do. And one of the nice things I wanted to point out, and this is the last thing I'll point out here, is the follow-up stuff that you can do through Skillshare. So, like, for instance, they have here these this project description, the resources where he links to different things he talked about. There's even this explore more classes that are very similar, so you can kind of keep going, maybe on some video editing or something like that. And additionally, because a lot of these people are also YouTubers, well, the Skillshare style is much different. It's much more of kind of like a very educational thing where you're just getting like a good, like, uses of bullet points and all that kind of stuff. That's really, really great. They do have YouTube channels as well, so you can follow up more, and I can go and read about why YouTubers really upgrade cameras so often. I will be watching this, actually probably later tonight or maybe tomorrow. We'll see. Depends on how late it gets. But suffice it to say, Skillshare is something I use all the time, and it's really been helpful. If you want to use Skillshare for like a gift for Christmas, that's certainly possible too. So again, be sure to check this out. It'd be a great thing to gift with something. Like if you gave someone a camera, it'd be awesome to give them Skillshare. Like, hey, here's how to use a camera. There are videos that'll tell you what an f-stop is and what ISO is and what the different lenses are and the millimeters and all that kind of stuff. So if you're getting anything, if you got a camera, it'd be great to kind of do it here. It's a lot better than what I was doing before, where I was going to every website and trying to figure out what things are and watching parts of YouTube videos that don't have the timestamps and breakdown like this. And this has been really nice. I can't really say too much more about that. It's something that's been very helpful for me, from my personal life to my YouTube work to pretty much everything in between. It's been really nice. So again, link down below to that. Super cheap, free trial. Definitely want that. First 1,000 people. And again, a very easy gift to give, which would be awesome as well. Okay, next up at number 6, we have Masters of the Universe. But not just by one company, by 2 companies. And you can only get one, no matter where you live. Okay, so let's go ahead and discuss that. This is actually a theme you're going to see in a few of the other upcoming controversies, but essentially, Masters of the Universe was announced by CMON, and people were like, "Oh, that's awesome! I mean, look at this, and it'll be great to paint. It's gonna have minis, I'm sure, and you can paint them. And look at all the colors. You can have a purple. Like it's gonna be great for any painter. You're gonna use all the colors you never get to use. You're gonna use a lot of it. It's gonna be bright and colorful and awesome, and it's gonna be really, really cool. That being said, it is for the world except for Europe. Now, what is Europe? I don't know specifically what they're defining as that. That's because the reason you can't is because Europeans get Masters of the Universe Fields of Eternia, but they're the only ones that get it. Why is that? It's IP related. It's really unfortunate when a company can't get global rights to an IP, but essentially there are 2 companies that hold the rights to Masters of the Universe distribution. One is for the US and the rest of the world, and then a different one is for Europe. So CMON worked with that one, and Archon Studios worked with the one in Europe, and they are making different games. Very unfortunate, because I know some people that are more interested in the kind of the skirmish Archon one, and some people that are more interested in whatever CMON's bringing to the table, or both. Yeah, I have room in my heart for 2 Masters of the Universe games. I can paint them all. I can play them. I'm sure they're going to be way different. They're definitely different style game studios. And so, I'm imagining again, they're going to be way different, but you don't get that choice. I will be doing a versus video on this, or a cage match video on these, as much as I can. So if it's just info that we know, I'll be doing that. If I've only played one, I can do that. It would be great if, and I don't know how, like, reviews work and stuff like that, if that's exempt from kind of the distribution stuff, because it's not a sale. I don't know. If I could play both and let you guys know, I will definitely do that. I think a lot of that has to do with CMON, if I get anything early. Otherwise, it'll certainly be once that delivers, which is a bit too late because, you've already either pledged or not, but maybe if you are rest of the world and you're looking at retail for it, that could help. Either way, I will be doing that as best as I can. But really unfortunate that consumers don't get a choice. It'd be great if we could just pick the one we like, but instead it just depends on where you live, and you can't really change that. Maybe. Now, I am sure you can still get it. Secondhand will be a thing, and there'll be people willing to ship overseas. I imagine retailers will do much of the same thing. I'm sure, especially if it's limited, that they'll be backing their region, and then they're willing to ship out to you after the fact. So I'm sure you can get otherwise. You might even be able to like change it late in the pledge manager. I don't know. I wouldn't count on that. I'd definitely ask before doing that. Just because, or put $1 in maybe so you're safe. But, because it's very well likely they're just not going to put it on a ship and put it over to the other continent, right? But, maybe you can even have somebody ship it to you or like that. Like I know I could use one of my patrons if I needed to get the European one. I'm sure I could do that. So there are ways around this, of course, as a consumer, but it sucks to have to jump through hoops to do it. So, definitely a bummer anytime you announce something and it's limited to a certain amount of people. Speaking of which, at number 5, we have HeroQuest on Hasbro Pulse. Now, I had an initial reaction video to the launch of it as somebody who wasn't aware of the system and how the game played or anything like that. As a newer board gamer, I was left with a lot of questions because they just kind of showed me some components and then that was about it. And it was on a whole different site I'd never been to, and it had a very slow start. They eventually got a lot better, and here's, I think, why. First of all, they added more info after the fact, which is great. I'm glad they did that. One of the problems is Hasbro Pulse only does US. Only US. And in fact, it won't even ship to Quebec, Canada, because Quebec requires it to be in French, and they are not doing any other languages but English. So this was very much a launch of HeroQuest, which was designed and made in Europe, with the European company's IP, the Games Workshop Warhammer IP built into it. And if you were from there, you couldn't even play it. They eventually fixed that too. They went with another company and you could go back it through them. I forget all the details there. But suffice it to say, you had to, again, kind of jump through hoops, and that wasn't automatically. So HeroQuest launched and everybody was excited about it. They had teased it. And then suddenly they're like, oh, it's US only. And in fact, people were finding out as they went to go back. So you could click, the back button and try and put your credit card information. And then by the time you went into the address thing, it's like, oh, nope, US only. That is not how your customers should find out that it's US only. Again, when I talk about expectation, that's what I mean. You need to set expectations perfectly for the consumer so they know exactly what they're getting into. If there's a negative reaction to that, it's better to have it before the campaign than day one of the campaign, by far. And it's better to learn about it through an official announcement than to get hyped about it and get pumped about it and see all that and then go and try to buy it and then you find out you can't. That's like the worst way to do it. So if there's a lesson learned here, again, it's definitely to set proper expectations with your customers and ideally offer it to as many customers as possible and ensure that the customers that are available know it's available and that the customers that it's not available to understand that as well. Okay, so moving on. Now at number 4, we have Kingdom of Death Monster King Coins. This one ended up okay. And that's in large part thanks to Adam Pootz's willingness to listen to feedback, respond, and adjust. And I don't think there's any real hard feelings here, but definitely was kind of an odd situation. So, COVID happened in 2020. His company is based in New York City, which has been on lockdown for pretty much the whole year, it seems. And I mean like lockdown. Like stuck in your home, not allowed to go anywhere, lockdown, for a large part of the year. And so, with that, it's been hard for companies to necessarily sell things, right? Even online, because you still have to make things and work together and do all that stuff. And anyway, he had the idea of a King Coin. And what was a King Coin? A King Coin was essentially your ticket to be first in line. So you could pay what's essentially a gift card, right? It's essentially a gift card, just themed in Kingdom of Death Monster as a face, because one, of course. And once you bought this gift card, when they had a sale coming up, you could only, when it first launched, only people who had prepaid with this gift card could then use that gift card to back things. And so if you didn't prepay, if you didn't pay already, not knowing what the sales look like, not knowing the prices or what's going to be necessarily on sale or anything like that, just buying it and then hopefully not wasting that money, you had to wait. Now, Kingdom of Death Monster has a problem already where, and you can see this if you follow the Kickstarter, or the Discord server that has kind of an automated thing on the shop. Stuff will go on sale, and then before you could click check, it's like buying a PS5. Before you even click, like all the way through the buy, it's gone. People buy it instantly. There are bots that will go after it for sure. There are people that are just poaching 5 copies of it, and logging in on different things and doing all this stuff and using different warehouses and whatever they have to do to get the product. And they'll only upload like maybe 37. It's like, oh, there's 37 copies. Well, they're gone. And so it's already hard enough to get what you want. You already have to be quick about it. But then to have to prepay, hope there's something that you want for a good price that you're willing to pay for, and then they get it. And if you don't do that, you're almost guaranteed not to get the cool item. Any of the cool items are going to be gone. Definitely didn't think that through. Like I understand from a business why they did it, right? It's great to get prepaid stuff and not even have to promise anything. So I get that. And I get that they kind of made it, trying to make it fun and thematic and all that stuff. But obviously did not hit well with many people in the community. And they responded, so that's good. It was a big controversy, but it was resolved based off of them being willing to listen to people instead of banning them, AEG. So lesson learned there. Anyway, they're even making a physical version of it because some people did end up buying this, of course, because they wanted the product and they were fine. And they're like, well, I'm probably going to buy anything new there anyway. And a lot of people are like that, and that's okay too. But yeah, they're actually going to be printing these out and sending them, which is kind of cool, I think. So, definitely, ended up quite well, I think. Okay. We're down to the top ones here. We're getting close. And in fact, 2 of these are related. So if I'm going to show you the next one, let me know if you guessed what the one afterwards is, or at least one of the 2 afterwards is, because I think you'll guess. Okay, number 3 is Eric Lang stepping down from his executive role at CMON. Now, anytime an exec leaves any company, it's worthwhile. It's newsworthy. You'll see news articles for any company where an exec is leaving. It's a big deal. The execs are highly invested in it. A lot of times they are so invested in the company that that's where their pay comes from. That's why they get a lot of like shares and stuff like that. Cause it's like your purpose is to make the company do well. And the better the company is, the better you're paid. It's like a one-to-one relationship. So they're invested and they're for sure going for it. And he stepped down. He stepped away from it. Not only that, but he stepped away from it really quick. This was August 28th and his last day was September 1st. So, that was like, he's gone. I don't know if he just didn't put 2 weeks in or if they just waited, to announce it until like the last minute, but either way, it was quick. Now he said, had a great time. Everything's fine. We love each other, but I'm out. And from what we can tell, he's out completely. Ankh, no longer being worked on. Blood Rage 2, no longer being worked on. Cyberpunk 2077, no longer being worked on. True Divine Legends, he's not part of any of it. He's not finishing any of his design or his development. He's just cut. He's out. CMON keeps all of that and will just put their own people on there. That's a big deal. Now, we could speculate forever on why that happened. Personally, I think he just wants to be happy. I've seen what execs have to do. And I know how much he enjoyed, following his passion, which is why he would be developing Ankh for like forever, because he has these ideas that don't work in his other 2 games, but work in that one. So he's working on that. Sorry, excuse me. And so I understand, I think I can get a sense of his kind of, style and, obviously working for a company with deadlines and management and forms and paperwork and all this other kind of stuff is not that. It's kind of related, right? But really he was managing the other people that were almost able to do that. Though again, when you're not freelance, you have to work on what you're working on and you have a deadline and your boss is going to come and say, hey, when's that done? And so I think he's going to be a lot happier. I know he moved even for the job, and so he's already moved back to his home. He did that earlier, and that was probably a sign that we didn't really notice at the time when he moved back to kind of his kind of home area in Canada. So anyway, he moved away. He quit CMON. He's no longer there. He's now freelance. He's not attached to anything else that comes out of CMON. And in fact, probably more so than you might think. So definitely a big deal. And anybody who was backing Ankh or any of these other games because his name was attached to it definitely has to pause and kind of wonder. Now, to be more into that, number 2, let's see if you guessed it. True Long Legends. Man, I'm gonna wait my throat. True Long Legends being delayed pretty much indefinitely. Okay, so let's figure out what happened here. So this was posted September 23rd. So less than a month after his announced leaving, they said, hey, we put new people on this. In fact, we put a whole team on this and we don't like where it's being developed. Like literally they're saying like, we are not happy with where this game was in development and we're changing things drastically. Like changing a lot to the point where they're back at almost a drawing board, to the point where they said that this is looking at possibly a year delay. Could be more, probably will be more, if I'm being honest. When it comes to ideation, especially because now they have to essentially remake the game, but they have to make the game and still appease people who backed it for maybe a specific campaign. So they still have to do that draw token. Even if it doesn't make sense, they can't ditch it. I mean, that would go terribly, right? People backed for that. And so they have to kind of make this work while it's kind of like having to do a Bob Ross painting, but with your mouth, because both hands are tied behind your back. Good luck. It makes those happy trees. I can only imagine how difficult that is. But to hear that, hey, he's leaving, and then come on saying, we're not happy with the work that was being done on this. I mean, I'm able to add 1 and 1, and that equals 2. And 2 equals, that's awful conveniently related, I feel. So it's very interesting to see that. They also are doing a lot of changes with Ankh. So Ankh has now had an update. Now, not nearly this bad, but they've had a thing where they're like, hey, we're changing this. We're not happy with how the playtest is working here and stuff. They're definitely changing mechanics late game there, but nothing like almost this complete revamp where it almost seems like from the ground up, they're really taking a look at everything and really changing things. Now, this was so unfortunate that I actually shared how to get a refund from CMON. If you weren't happy with whatever kind of limbo state Trudvang Legends is, I did that. Over 400 of you followed that link. So I'm very glad that was helpful for you guys. I hope you were able to ensure that the money that you got back goes to something that you know you will like. I can understand that. I can understand people staying for it too. That's fine. Some people are okay with it, some people aren't. But if you're not, in fact, I'll have that link down below again for you, just in case. If this is the first time you're hearing this, and you're like, I back Trudvang Legends, I didn't know it's like indefinite. Oh, wait, you get 3 flags as a, sorry for the, year-ish maybe, delay in this as we rework all the mechanics that you backed. Anyway, yeah, it's rough. And, the timing, awful suspicious for me. Now, is that Eric's fault? It could definitely not be. I have worked at places that give me these deadlines. That's like, well, that's the best I can do to that deadline. I don't know what you want from me. I told you it wouldn't work. So I'm not saying it's his fault or he's a bad designer. Again, I love Blood Rage. So, and he did that. So that's great. I like some games he likes. I haven't liked some games he likes. That, I think that's pretty normal. But definitely, a big controversy. One of the biggest, number 2 on my list. To hear Eric Lang leaves and then less than a month later, we're changing everything Eric did because we weren't happy with what this was developed at. It's like, oh, geez, we got a whole SWAT team to fix this mess. It's like, ooh, I mean, that's not how they worded. That's my wording, not theirs, but if I was writing the update, maybe I would speak differently. Okay. Number one controversy of 2020. Now, I will say that all of these controversies, well, most of them, some of them are just plain bad. Like, don't kick people who paid you money for a product because they said that they weren't promos. Like, that's dumb. AEG, don't do that. But, or someone's like, well, you can't help, IP related issues. But, depending on how you look at it, it could be a positive or negative. That's kind of what makes it controversial, is it generates discussion and people are, either for or against it or think it's a huge deal or not that big of a deal or whatever. Number 1, ISS Vanguard is not being launched on Kickstarter. This is the biggest preview, lead up to a game that I have ever seen. 26,000. I don't remember what Frosthaven had. I feel like it wasn't 26,000 freaking people just on the Notify email launch, especially off of Kickstarter, right? To do this Notify, you had to create a whole new account, possibly with GameFound. A lot of us had it already through the, pledge or the pledge manager portion of GameFound. But for a campaign, this is new. And so a huge deal and a huge blow to Kickstarter. They're not going to make a lot of money now because this is going to make a lot of money. And Awakened Realms gets to keep it all because they own it. Because if you didn't know, Awakened Realms owns GameFound. Or at least the share management or what, the relationship's kind of odd. And actually I think they're talking about splitting a little bit. In fact, I have a whole interview with Marcin. I'll link that below as well, where he talks about GameFound and Awakened Realms and the kind of the inner workings there. But suffice it to say, huge news. Either good if you're, hey, I'm fine, let's get off of Kickstarter, or bad because it's like, I don't want to deal with this other stuff and I didn't know about this and what does this mean for Kickstarter? Am I now having to split it? And I think I'm kind of on the other side right now where I'm fine with it. I don't think there's very many people against it, but definitely huge. Definitely a big deal. Potentially a huge push and competition for Kickstarter. How this will affect 2021, I'll remain to see. But I wouldn't be surprised if you see something about GameFound and Kickstarter on my 2021 controversy video. Now, hopefully, I can't even make a top 10, but I somehow doubt that. I've always been able to every year, so I guess we'll see. With that, if I missed something that you think was very controversial, I would love to discuss that with you in the comments below. Seriously, let me know. Let everybody know whether it's good, whether it's bad. It's always good to kind of look back and see lessons learned, or like I said, like a lot of this is just like set expectations, right? A lot of it's just that. So anyway, yeah, be sure to let me know if I missed anything. Mainly because if it's something I didn't know about and I haven't covered, I might cover it. Like if it's worthwhile talking about and I can find a way to fit it into a video, I have no problem discussing things. I think this industry talk is good for the industry. I think it's good for developers. I think it's good for us consumers. It's good for everybody. There's almost no negative to discussing this stuff. So, and you don't even need to be mean-spirited about it. Even AEG being silly over there is just a good lesson learned where everybody can look and be like, let's not do that. Let's not be them. Which is how everybody should react to that. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you had a great 2020, despite all the controversies. And obviously there was a lot more than this, but I had to limit it to 10. I had at least a couple a month, it seemed like, especially for some spans of the year. But anyway, I will be with you soon with several unboxings. I have some preview stuff. The big announcement that I'm going to do at the end of this video, so welcome to the end of the video, is I have a Primal the Awakening prototype on its way to me. So, if you're interested in that, subscribe plus bell. I will be posting that. I might even do a live unboxing. If you're interested in that, know that 1, it'll be either the middle of the day or really late at night, Mountain Standard Time. And 2, like seriously, it's a lot more work. I'll have to try it out and figure that out. If you're interested in a live unboxing of Primal the Awakening, let me know in the comments below. Seriously, I'm not going to do it unless a lot of people want it, because it's more work on my part. I'd rather just dig in and unbox it. So let me know, and look forward to that. I know I am. There's like 4 other unboxings here. I've got so many games. I got some reviews coming up. It's going to be a crazy end of the year. It always is. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great dang it. Almost made it through the video. Have a great rest of your day. And I'll talk to you guys again real soon.